The Senate has already confirmed 8 of President Trump's exceptional cabinet nominees. We expect the Senate to continue quickly confirming the remainder of President Trump's well-qualified nominees in the days ahead.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt feeling optimistic about the rest of President Trump's cabinet nominees making it through the Senate, but the toughest are still to come, and our next guest may hold one of the key votes. Joining us now, Senator John Fetterman. Welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Hi. How are you?
Okay, I'm great. Let's start with RFK Jr. He's been through his hearing. This is what the Washington Post says. His confirmation hearings were even worse than expected. The HHS nominee's answers to senators' questions were absurd and dangerous. Now, I know that you've had multiple conversations with him. Where are you this morning?
I have. I've invested a lot of time to really understand his background and to learn more about the man. And I've sat down with him twice in my office to have a conversation. So whatever the vote comes down on, that's going to come. It's going to come an informed view. And I approached with an open mind, and I watched the hearing, and that's how the process works.
So have you made a decision?
I've been following it, and I talked to my colleagues on both sides, and I've said this on the record. It's like, it's been challenging for sure. Absolutely. It's certainly not a slam dunk for the nomination. Will
you reveal your vote before you get to the floor, or is this going to be like a game time decision for you?
No. I mean, it's like, you mean right before I stick my thumb
Yep.
in
Are
the
we going
door?
to know before that?
No. It's just part of it's part of the ongoing dialogue on where we are at this. But I've made an investment to really understand and talk to all of the nominees. And I treated everyone with respect, and I took the time to listen. Okay. And that's been part of my commitment.
Okay, so you've also met with Kash Patel. He's been tapped to lead the FBI. There are reports that after your conversation, you said he assured you he would not go after a so-called enemies list. Have you made a decision on him?
Well, and again, that's part of the own process, too. I believe I'm the only Democrat, or maybe one of the only few, that have actually met with all of them. And again, I've approached all of them with, again, that open mind to have a conversation. And I don't trust, and certainly not, many of the things that were written or said about me weren't true. So I assume the same might be them as well, too. So I've maintained an dialogue to really understand, and I've watched these hearings, and that's part of, if our job is to consent, and that is part of the process. And there are some out of all of them, I have voted for them, and there's some that I won't vote for them. But it's going to be about an open process that I've maintained throughout the entire time.
And I know that includes meeting with Tulsi Gabbard as well. I mean, she's got concerns from both sides of the aisle. Can you tell us more about your conversations with her and if you've landed on a decision regarding her?
No, it's, again, I just really pretty much the exact same as the two that you just brought up.
Okay, now you have, as you noted, voted for some of President Trump's nominees in this process, and you were one of the only Democrats to vote for the Laken-Riley Act. We saw you as part of the signing ceremony for that with her family, with President Trump this week. Now, there's been some blowback from the left about voting for that act, about the ICE raids that are going on now across the country. I want to get your reaction to some local officials who say either they're not going to cooperate, they're going to actively block these, or in some cases, they're just going to give people advice on how to avoid the raids. Here are some local officials reacting in the last few days.
Our police officers will not be cooperating with federal law enforcement around federal immigration law.
Being a welcoming city just simply states that our local police department will not behave as federal agents.
We have a sanctuary ordinance, a state law, SB 54, that generally prohibits our police department from participating in immigration enforcement.
So what obligations do or don't you think local officials have with respect to the feds and these deportations?
I hope every local official would agree that anyone here, any of the migrants that are here with criminal backgrounds or engaging in criminal behavior, I think they should support that. Now, if ICE comes to round them up, I hope they would provide that kind of support. I certainly would never support terrorizing otherwise innocent migrants in those kinds of situations, or kicking in a door at a school. But I think we can all agree that every migrant here with a criminal background or engaging in criminal behavior should all needs to go.
Okay, so you also were the only Democrat vote in trying to move together a measure pushing back against the ICC. Specifically, it seems, for their decision to go after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, among others. This illegitimate court counteraction act was supposed to impose sanctions with respect to the ICC, engaged in any effort to investigate, arrest, detain, or prosecute any protected person of the United States and its allies. Why do you think you were the only Democrat to vote on moving that forward procedurally?
Well, I said that on social media, that I was incredibly disappointed. I absolutely disagree with that. I can't really understand why my party hasn't joined me in voting to sanction the ICC. When you've equivocated the Democratic leader of our special ally with the rapists and cowards of Hamas, especially after what you've seen, after terrorizing that poor hostage, you had hundreds and hundreds of people, the chaos, it's like, and they've equivocated that with the prime minister. It's vile. I mean, my colleague that's going to be next up on your show, we've had a long going conversation in order to sanction the ICC. And I was absolutely supportive of that, and I can't defend why my party chose not to.
So the prime minister he's on his way to Washington to have meetings here, including at the White House with President Trump. Do you think that there will be a different relationship between the U.S. and Israel with the Trump administration versus a Biden administration?
Well, there's going to be some situations where I absolutely support some of the decisions with Israel that Joe Biden made. And I'm going to agree with some of the decisions with President Trump, or I'm going to disagree with them as well. But that's why my vote and my voice is going to follow Israel through all of this situation. I'm going to disagree with either of the presidents, but I'm going to stand with Israel, just like that vote against the ICC. And I absolutely was supporting blocking the ban on the 2,000-pound bombs as well. I fully support bringing those back.
All right, Senator, we will watch for your votes on all those critical nominees, but you can always let me know if you decide to before you press that button. It's always great to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.